I enjoy the content. I enjoy the fact that coaches are out there doing WWE. However, Joe.
Yeah, I actually do think this is a little bit deeper than you're making it, because
at the surface, I think the Dave Doeren press conference after the fact probably means that there's probably something a little deeper here.
I think he's using Steve Smith as an avatar for the fans who are disgruntled with him.
Fair.
And the way that this season has gone, or maybe even that his tenure has gone. With the win on Saturday, he is now Dave Doeren has 77 career wins at NC State, which is the most, it tied for the most in school history. On the surface, you go, that is an impressive accomplishment. Anytime you were the school's leader in wins, you should make a big deal about that, right? It is the most NC State thing ever, though, that Earl Edwards has the record for the most wins at NC State, but has an overall losing record at NC State. Now, football was different back in the 60s, in the 17 years that Earl Edwards was there. First of all, they played an average of 10 games a year. And only 4 times in his career did they play 11 games in a season. Okay. So he played 173 games in 17 years. Dave's played 134 in 11. Earl Edwards, 77, 88, and 8 overall. Dave Doeren is 77, 57 overall. That's pretty good, Joe.
Yeah.
In the ACC, though, where Dave Doeren got his own math, he needs to go back and work on his homework. 40 and 46. So they're not second or third in his tenure in wins. Okay. Florida State, Clemson, Miami, maybe even Georgia Tech has them on that one. Pitt. So you have to look at that, and you go 40 and 46 in the ACC, and you look at the pie chart for the first time in the history of the Yellow Pad. I created a pie chart because of those 77 wins, 40 are against the ACC. That's 52%. 23 are against Group of 5 schools. 23. So 30% are against Group of 5 schools. Not great. 10 of those are against 1AA teams. Again, you're padding and getting to 77 in a way that is not exactly exemplary.
That's fine.
And that's fine. That's also part of the modern game. So on the plus side, you have the longevity. Getting to year 11 is an accomplishment. You have the budget constraints. NC State is the probably last amongst public schools in spending. You add in private schools. Yeah, they probably spend more than Boston College, but congratulations. So what he's doing is he's outperforming his financial resources.
Yes.
That is impressive.
Yes.
Lasting 11 years is impressive. However, here's the part where Dave is missing the boat a little bit. When you don't have a division title, when you don't have a conference title, when you don't have a trip to a major bowl game, when you haven't won 10 games in a season, which during his tenure, there's only 2 schools that haven't won 10 games in a season, NC State and Virginia. It regularly happens. People regularly win divisions. People regularly win conference.
NC State just hasn't.
And they haven't.
Yeah.
So when you don't have that...
Wake Forest won a division while this is all going on.
And had a 10-win season. When you don't have that, you look at it and you go, well, why would Steve Smith, who only tangentially probably pays attention to college football, know who you are?
Yeah, there's no reason to.
There's not a reason. You have to give people a reason to. Now, the other flip side of this is, I think Dave looks at this and goes, hey, I want respect for what I've done, which I think all of us can.
Everybody wants their flowers, man. Look,
everybody wants respect for the work that they've put in.
Yes.
But I think that's a natural human. Like, if you're Dave, you feel that.
You want to get to the heart of what Dave's problem is?
And I think you're about to.
Dave's problem is that what he's doing at NC State is what you would expect, and I use this phrase a lot. What you expect at about 98% of college football programs. All right. I'm not going to disagree with your point. You're absolutely right. At this point in a conference where everybody is at won a division, everybody's gotten to these marks, and you haven't. Yeah, man, that is a frustration point. But those are like little blips for an overall pattern. I think the bigger issue for Dave, and I think some of it is his own fault, because of NC State's messaging, is that what has NC State accomplished under Dave Doeren compared to his main comparison, North Carolina and Mac Brown, who gets all the flowers all the time, and in the grand scheme of things, this is a launching off point to get to North Carolina second. But ultimately, what has been accomplished at North Carolina? Yes, they won the last ever Coastal Division. Yes, they made it to a New Year's Six Bowl, where they got smoked.
With 8 wins.
No, that's the funny part about it. I forgot about the 8 wins.
They had the same record as NC State.
So North Carolina has done less with more. You talk about budgets.
Right.
North Carolina has all the budgets that they would want. They've got great facilities. They have access to all the recruits. They have Mac Brown, who gets all the love, all the flowers, all the Miley Cyrus flowers, and Dave doesn't. Now,
so since Mac 2.0,
yeah,
Mac's ACC record 23-16, Dave's ACC record 20-18. Head-to-head 2-2.
It gets back to the point that I've always made, that there's, as much as people want to make it out some difference between North Carolina and NC State, they're basically the same. You know that Pam?
Mac has not won 10 games, by the way.
You know the Pam office meme? Like, I want you to look at these two things, and she sees, well, they're the same image. Well, that's NC State and North Carolina, except that North Carolina gets talked about in one way, and NC State gets talked in another. But you know why one school gets talked about one way and why the other school doesn't? That's a you problem. That's a messaging problem. NC State fucks up messaging all the time. And Dave, how many times have we talked about the two Daves? I want to apologize to Dave, actually, because a couple weeks ago we talked about the Herb Sendek zone. Now, I think the larger point about the Herb Sendek zone is valid.
Yeah.
However, you know what Herb Sendek would never do? Herb
fights with Steve Smith.
He would never do that. And you know how many times, because you and I have been doing this long enough, how many times NC State fans say, my thought on Herb would have changed if he just would have blown up.
Given the butt slap to Coach K.
Right. Right. Mark Gottfried will always say what you want about Mark Gottfried. He slapped Coach K's ass after he beat him. Herb never would have done that. So Dave gets this. He actually wins over some of the fan base. The people who ride for Dave look at that and they double down on riding for Dave, because that's the kind of shit that NC State fans look for in a coach. Give them the red meat. You can say it's contrived. You can say this and that. I don't give a crap. Ultimately, you got to speak to your constituency, and your constituency loves this, loves it. And they also love the fact that to get back to the point about the comparisons, they still find a way to beat North Carolina. North Carolina's supposed to have these generational QBs. North Carolina's got this window for a national championship, and they still go out there and they win with Ben freaking Finley as their quarterback. Okay? So I get where Dave's coming from. I actually think what Dave's doing is very relatable. As somebody who has had longevity, as somebody who has had to do more with less resources, and you don't get your flowers, you get your breaking point. You've seen me break. You've seen me break. So I do think that where Dave is coming from is more relatable. I don't think the fans are going to ultimately change their minds. The people who are done with Dave are done with Dave. But hey, man, I give him credit, because sometimes you got to put your foot down and fight for yourself.
And to your point about longevity and avoiding the blips, that's why this season was so important.
Yes.
It couldn't be another 3-9. It couldn't be 4-8
and
either.
It's not going to be.
And I'm sure they'll find one more win on this schedule. Maybe it's at Wake in the Bizarro world, but it was important.
Do they have Keon Coleman?
It was important for them to not have another one of those 3-9 or 4-8 disasters. And by winning this game, even 5-7 to me, even just there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, for most programs. There's nothing wrong with your basement being 5 wins.